Good morning. I'll try and be very concise indeed. Let me just say and spend a few words about my company. I represent a region which is one of the greatest investment private groups in Russia, which is specialized in the management of assets. Now, the story of the group dates back to some 20 years ago. We've seen the economic trends. We've had strong analysts. We make analysis of individual sectors. And my colleague who talked about infrastructures was benefiting from a higher presence of participants. At that time, there were more participants. Italy is an agricultural country. I am the only one to represent Russia. And maybe the presentation I am now doing maybe doesn't look like serious, but the issues are very serious and very important indeed. I do not want to formulate any political judgment, and I will try not to generalize. But let me present you a number of figures and trends that I believe are important. Everything has to be led back to the month of August 2014 with the food embargo. After that, we had the ruble devaluation, and it generated multiple effects. Then after that, we had a grain export duty that was introduced in the month of February 2015, which was then followed by subsidies that increased in the field of Russian agriculture, and in the August of 2015, the embargo was renewed. Yesterday, a study was published that was generated by 3 analysis centers in Russia, very recent data on the month of January down to August of this year. The physical imports of physical quantities and food items have gone down by 27%. And meanwhile, the consumption of foodstuffs that were imported only went down by 10%. And if we want to see what was the consumption level in rubles, we will see that the consumption has gone down to a level which was typical of the month of August 2014. In other words, Russians still spend for foodstuffs, imported foodstuffs, exactly what they spent a year before. We've been making analysis, quarterly analysis, and amongst the indicators we have the GDP, the food and beverage production. And in this case, the curbing of the values is typical of the second quarter. And then we also studied agriculture and livestock trends, which are growing. The situation seems to be paradoxical, but from the Russian economy point of view, this could be considered as something which is quite positive, if only we didn't suffer from the drop in production of food items. We've considered sort of a basket in which we place the 5 typical foodstuffs: meat and poultry meat, cheese, animal fats and oils, and vegetable fats and oils, and milk. Here you see the trends of imports and consumption. The growth of consumption can only be seen in just the case of 2 products: poultry meat and vegetable oil, whilst the import of these products have gone down in a sensitive manner. In this slide, we will see that the consumption has either gone down to a lesser extent as opposed to imports, or that maybe there is a replacement of imported products. Why did I say sort of an import replacement? I would like to say that many people in Russia share my opinion, but there is a problem in Russia which has got to do with the use of the so-called palm oil or butter, palm butter. And if we look at the consumption trends, we will see that the imports of palm oil is growing, whilst cheese imports have gone down by 27%, consumption has gone down by 10% in general. And the local production of Russian cheese has gone up by more than 20%. So you can know what is the ingredient with which the cheese is made. And in this slide, you will see the results of the current situation. Another very popular theme in the European Union has got to do with the apple imports, which involves Poland and somehow also to some extent Italy as well. We are now showing some trends, showing the dynamics of prices and of imports. We recalculated the prices in euros according to the current exchange rate, and what we can see is that against the backdrop of the drop in imports, the prices in Russia have gone back to the levels of 2014. But here I'm referring to the euro prices. Now, obviously, I don't want to draw any kind of conclusions. The picture seems to be already quite sad in itself. My task here is the one of talking about the trends that are visible in the agricultural field. And notwithstanding the many trends, I'd like to conclude with a positive note. The overall sum of investments in the year 2014 and 2015, the investments in the agricultural production, in livestock and production in the field of agriculture are visible. So in the backdrop and against the dynamic of investments, I would like to say that one of the segments, very few segments within which investments are growing and that still have an important production potential is agriculture, not the oil sector, not the gas sector, but agriculture. So the many efforts that have been made to replace imported products will then turn into an investment process also on the side of the European Union.